Hey guys, I am trying to make some videos for the notes that we took today in class. For those of you that maybe didn't get everything down or you missed. So I'm going to try to break it up into small chunks, and so there will be multiple videos, but like I said, I'm going to try to break it into small chunks. So I want to first talk about section 1.3. All right, and that was solving absolute value equations. Okay, and what I mean by that is that you have some x's, right, and you have the absolute value in there, and you have to try to figure out what x is equal to. So there's a couple of steps that you should follow, all right, to get you started. All right, and so the first step is to isolate the absolute value expression. So the part that has the absolute value around it, you want to isolate that. I don't know if this is, hold on a second. You want to isolate that part. So isolate the absolute value expression on one side of the equals, okay? And the second step is that you're going to write two equations. All right, so you're going to write two equations, and I will talk about what those should look like in just a minute. And then you are going to solve both equations. Okay, so I'm just going to do an example or two here, and then I'll do another short video with some more complicated examples, and I'll try to break it up for you. Okay, so let's look at our first example. We have the absolute value of x minus 9 equals 5. Okay, well, if we're looking at the steps, we're supposed to isolate the absolute value expression on one side. All right, well, when I say the absolute value expression, I'm talking about the part that has the absolute values around it. And it is, in fact, already isolated on the left. Okay, so we're done with step one. Now we're going to write two equations. The first equation should always be a copy of the original without bars, because technically you can't move anything out of the bars if they're still there. So you have to drop them when you write your two equations. And then you're just going to use the word or to write a second equation. The second equation never changes what's inside the bars, but it will equal the negative, okay, of the number on the other side. So those are our two equations, and now we're going to use our basic algebra skills to get x by itself. All right, and so we get x equals 14, and we actually do the same math over here, but we get a different answer. Okay, and then for proper mathematical notation, you should write your solution in what's called set notation, where you put your two solutions in these little curly brackets, and you usually put them in numerical order. Okay, I'll do another one that won't take too long, and then I'll probably stop the video and do another one. All right, so let's look at the absolute value of y minus 1 plus 17 equals 23. Okay, now remember, step one is to isolate the absolute value expression on one side. Well, here's the absolute value expression, and it is not the only thing on the left. All right, and so we have to move the plus 17, all right, by subtracting it, so that we isolate the absolute value part on one side. Once we do that, we can write our two equations. Remember, the first one is a copy of exactly the same that you see without the bars. And the second one does not change what's inside the bars, but it does make it equal to the negative number. Okay? Then we have 2 equations to solve. The math part of that should not be too very difficult. Did I copy that right? Yes, I'm sorry. And then you put your 2 solutions in curly brackets. All right, now, just in case this is the only video you watch, all right, I need to point out a special case. Okay, so I'm going to extend my page here a little bit, and I just want to point out a special case before you go. All right, special case. All right, let me see. Okay, here's one. So we'll call this example 3, and it was actually going to be my 3rd example anyways. I have 16 times the absolute value of r minus 5 equals negative 32. Okay, now it's equal to a negative, but that's not a problem yet because you have not isolated the absolute value expression on this side. We have to figure out how are we going to get rid of the 16, and keep in mind if there's no mathematical symbol between the 16 and the bar, it is connected by multiplication, so we are going to have to divide. Okay, so now we have our absolute value equals negative 2. And this is where alarm should be going off, okay, because of this negative 2. Think about what absolute values do. They make things positive. So in terms of a solution, I'm asking you to plug something in here, and then it's supposed to equal a negative. Well, that will never happen. Okay? You can never take the absolute values of anything and it will equal a negative. So this is no solution. And if I were to write the curly brackets, the solution in curly brackets, it would literally just be curly brackets with nothing inside. All right, so that is the basics of solving absolute value equations, and I will make a second video with a few more examples.